I agreed to help them do that because I think it's incredibly important that government do what communities want. They're in power because we voted them in, and 86% of Victorian communities want their environment protected. So it's really important to listen to them and meet the aspirations of communities. That's why we agreed to host this forum. Well, we're an independent organisation, a statutory authority. We're an independent organisation, a community organisation. EPA is a statutory authority, so we didn't have any relationship other than occasionally working together. I know that about 3 or 4 years ago, EPA and Environment Victoria worked a little bit more closely, but that sort of stopped happening. Really, in the time I joined Environment Victoria, which is about 3 years ago, there was very little relationship with EPA and Environment Victoria, and I would say that's because it wasn't as strong working with communities as it now has the desire to do so. Probably didn't have much of an impact on the way that Environment Victoria perceived EPA because we had that view ourselves. We felt that not just the EPA but the Victorian government wasn't engaging appropriately with communities, wasn't listening to what communities want, and when communities did go to all the effort of putting in submissions or going to community forums, excuse me, they weren't responded to, and they really had very little influence on the outcome. So we already knew many of the things, I suppose, that the Auditor General's report and other reports identified. I think many people in EPA, I would imagine, knew that as well. Didn't come to as a shock, but it probably was a very good prompt for the leadership within EPA to actually try and fix some of those issues that it raised. I certainly think that EPA needs to probably do 3 things. It needs to have its very local community work. It needs to have these sort of broader forums where it can talk about some of the causes and some of the solutions to those causes. And I think it also needs to go out of Melbourne and across Victoria, because there's a lot of Victorians who can't make it into Melbourne. I think any organisation in the world has the resources to do probably what it wants to do, and I don't think EPA has the resources to do what the community wants it to do. And I'm not sure that if we doubled the size of EPA, that it would still have the resources that community want. I do think it should have more resources, because the EPA is the Environment Protection Authority. It's not the Environment Regulator Authority or the Environment Pollution Management Authority. It's the Environment Protection Authority, and there are issues like climate change, like shortages of water in our rivers, like consumption, and even population growth and the way that we sprawl our cities, that if you truly want to protect the environment, then you would think that the organisation called Environment Protection Authority would have a role in that. So there's many examples like that I think EPA could have a big role in. There's really smart forms of regulation that EPA could take to better protect our environment. And I would like them to have a go at that into the future, which is why we want to do these forums.